Good morning, everybody. How is everyone? Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. How y'all doing today?
Do you have a good weekend?
Had a fantastic weekend.
Everybody likes the weekend. Welcome back. It's the Wednesday Super Show. We're back here. If you miss any of the other Super Shows, by the way, you can always go to youtube.com/GamersHeaven PNW, and you can find all of our previous Super Shows. Everything that we've ever done is live over on our YouTube channel. Or if you just want to see some of the hot topics that we do, I edit out those videos and kind of sprinkle them out as we go. So some interesting ones. John and I's discussion about eSports and the future of like eSports communities and FGC. That just went up on Sunday. But we had a bunch of stuff. I'm glad you're raging over Unity because that's going to be one of our first topics today.
Wait, what's going on with Unity? I have no idea.
Oh boy, did I see a bunch of that over the weekend. So we're also going to talk about the new Lorcana releases, and of course we're taking your questions. So if you have anything you've seen in gaming or entertainment or anything like that that you want us to talk about, drop it in the chat right now, either on youtube.com or Twitch, and we will get to that toward the end of the show. Don't forget, tonight is draft night, so we have more Wilds of Eldraine drafts going on. We also have the Smash Melee tournament tonight. Those folks are always willing to bring in people last minute. They want to grow that community, and they're super friendly. I love the folks, our Melee friends who come in here.
Oh, they're great.
With their CRTs. It's my favorite.
They're great. And they bring their own CRTs.
They bring their own CRTs and GameCubes and Wii's. It's amazing.
We used to run events for them, and we had to keep CRTs on hand. I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore.
I don't even know if we can get that. Unity has finally lived up to its name. United all game devs against them. We're gonna talk about this in a second. John and I were just talking about it in the pre-show. So we're gonna go over that here in a second. Thank you for the chats.
Getting at hello and welcome. How you doing today?
Yes. So, like I said, if you have anything you've seen, go ahead and drop it in the chat. We'll try and get to it later in the show. All right. With that down, let's go ahead and get jumping here. John, you want to take the lead on this one? What the heck? All I saw across Twitter, I refuse to call it X, was some deep anger at Unity.
So there should be some deep anger at Unity right now, especially if you're on the developer side. I think one of the things that we're seeing here right now, and the chat will probably be chiming in for the whole time we're talking about this, but they made a move. They made some pretty bad errors over the last couple of years. And they have started losing a lot of developer and just public sentiment in general. The big move that just happened recently, however, is them charging for installs. And so somebody's going to have to clarify the language on this for me specifically in chat if you wouldn't mind. But the way that it is sounding right now is that they're going to start charging a certain amount for each new installation of a game built in their system, which is literally insane.
So let me see if I get this straight. Let's say I build myself a little indie platformer using Unity.
Yep.
Right? And I put it up on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Every time somebody from Steam downloads and installs that game, I get charged by Unity.
As far as the way that it seems to be worded, yes. And the part that I think is especially concerning people with the rise of cloud gaming and installs being like, you're not buying the game on cloud gaming most of the time with like Xbox or something like that.
Nope.
You're still installing it though. Mm-hmm. And there's no clarification on whether or not that counts. So that could be potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars if you are supported through Xbox Game Pass or any of those other cloud services, that if it gets installed, and we don't have clarity on this yet, that could potentially just eat into your pocket and you see nothing from. So there's a lot of like, I'm sure at this point their legal team is going over the documents again, and their social team is going to be going through the documents again. But yeah, so this is something that we are getting to. Necron. So like the thing that matters is like the big thing is after 200,000 installs, right? So small developers are fine, which makes me wonder if it's because like the clarification that we need, is it per platform? Or is it just in general? Because if it's just in general and you're on a free service like Game Pass and you just happen to be featured for that month or whatever, and you're still a small studio and you suddenly skyrocket over 500,000 installs or something like that.
Yeah.
what are you to do? Because you're not seeing any more money because of that, unless you've taken one of the specific deals that Game Pass offers, where there is the money incentive per install, but there's also the money incentive up front. So if you're a small development studio with Game Pass, from what I've been told from developers that they worked with, you get the option to get a upfront sum of what you know, basically, okay, I want to take this money up front so that you can then go work on other projects and not have to worry about, you know, how you're buttering your bread for the studio for the next like 6 months trying to figure out your next project.
Yeah.
Or there is if you're fine, you can take the install amount and just kind of hope that a bunch of people, you know, eventually install and play your game. So those are the two that I've heard about.
And so here's the thing, and especially with the lack of clarity for something like Game Pass, right? Because that's really where I think I would focus. And there's another piece that I want to touch on here in a second that you and I talked about in the pre-show. For something like cloud gaming, again, if I'm a small indie studio, and I have been a small indie publisher for tabletop stuff, if somebody was to be like, as a small indie guy, somebody's like, we're going to give you $1 million up front, but that's it, right? But then you can move on. And again, you have employees to pay, rent, all this stuff. As a small indie studio, I would probably be going, yeah, I'm going to take the money up front on this first couple of games.
Especially if it's your first couple of games. And I think it's important to point out right now that Malice of Alice is saying that it looks like, I'm assuming Unity here, because they say they are trying to say that Microsoft will be the ones charged. So like Unity, if you're on Game Pass, it looks like Microsoft might take the hit, but how long is Microsoft going to take the hit?
They're
for
not.
Hundreds of thousands of titles that might run into this, and that's just like an open-ended question, really. But I mean, at least if that's the case, that's good for the indie side. They can still take that good Game Pass deal, but it's really the optics of what Unity, and I think ultimately it's the optics of what Unity is doing as a whole right now, where they are. This feels very much like, how can we assure our investors over how can we make sure that our developers are well taken care of? It's the language, because on the back end they have tried to say that by getting this sort of money they will be able to continue to provide the tools that they are given at this moment.
Which is why so many developers use Unity. You know, is because it's a well-developed platform. I'm curious about.
And why isn't Nintendo Direct predictions? I don't know. I don't know why. So maybe we'll do some of those. Throw that in as a chat topic, and we'll
throw that
see.
in. We'll throw that in the next one. The other thing that I would be concerned about, again, like something like Steam, and you and I talked about this, and you brought this up, and I went, "Oh crap, you're right." So you brought up the concept of review bombing.
Yeah.
Right. So people, instead of review bombing, you could install bomb a developer right out, like.
In theory, so like they say, and again, this is all stuff that Unity is coming out afterwards and saying. This was not in their initial tweet, essentially. And we could read that tweet verbatim if anybody is interested. It's kind of long-winded, but it wasn't addressed anywhere. And so that is kind of a problem where it's like, yes, they're saying they have security measures in check, and yes, they have false flag stuffs in check, and like in play, and like blah, 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 all these other things. The immediate worry to the direct person that is reading this is, well, okay, so review bombing is a thing, right? Where we go on Metacritic and we just blow the shit out of this title, and then it's sitting at like a 2 or a 1 or whatever. But in this instance, you know, because they do that on Steam too, like they review bomb on Steam.
It's an epidemic over there.
So is this an instance where people that want to take that much malice have an extra tool for the time being, until they, you know, can tighten their ship, or if their anti-fraud system actually works the way it's supposed to, we'll see. But if that is not the case, and then something can be not only reviewed bomb, but installed bomb, which then could potentially eat into the pocket of somebody.
Or again, if they're doing it on Game Pass, you know, and install bombing it, and like install delete. You know,
so like Necron, so like, and that's the thing. It's so first time installs. So somebody would have to like legitimately go out of their way, which people will do, and like, you know, probably like switch up the IP or whatever they monitor for like the hardware or whatever they monitor for first time install, air quotes. But in here, at the end of the day, though, Necron is saying Unity is trying to be more of like what Epic does, where they get money per game download instead of the SaaS license model. But Epic has also made the concession up front in their agreements that like they won't take money until you hit a certain threshold. I think it's like $200,000 or something like that. So they're kind of like doing the same thing, except for Epic went about it in a much more, I want to say, reasonable way. And I think that could just be that their public-facing comms were just so much better about it, and people were so hot on Fortnite at the time, and they just have so many more tools in their suite that like it made sense. But this is just another thing that Unity has done in the last several months over the course of the year to kind of sour the taste of the actual development engine for a lot of people that have relied on it for years. And I think that we're starting to see suing Apple is reasonable. So ultimately, I think...
I want to touch on that in a second.
We can go into
finish
that.
your first part of your statement first, because I want to touch on that in a second.
But I think it makes sense. But the only thing, again, much like with everything that we worry about with these things, community sentiment, you know, and what is it doing to the devs? And right now we're seeing, like, because of the way the information output was handled, it's not getting its moment to, they're not getting their moment to be able to explain themselves if they do have something to say.
Yeah. And so there's a few quick things that I want to touch on. And this is, again, where something like a flat fee worries me because of how things like Steam are structured. So let's say, again, we're going to go back to my fake Unity built platformer, right, that I sell for $4.99 on Steam.
Yeah.
Right? Now, for the first chunk of it, Steam takes, what, 20% off the top, right? Now, typically, platforms like Steam, like when you see Steam sales, most companies have no choice as to whether Steam puts their product on sale, right? It happens to us the same way on DriveThruRPG with Identico. I can opt out of all sales, but if I opt out of all sales, I opt out of all sales, which means I also opt out of a lot of promotion that those platforms do when they do big sales.
Steam and those like, hey, my game's $1 sales. Some of those, sometimes, oh, it was $15, it's $1 now. You get hundreds of thousands of downloads because people are like, oh, $1? Yeah, and that makes up for the amount that you're not seeing on the end there.
Right. Now, but with a flat rate, 20 cents, right? Again, my little $4.99 platformer, Steam put it on sale for $2.50. Well, Steam's still going to take their 20% off the top, right? Of that $2.50, which means now I'm down to $2. Okay, now I only made $1.80, $1.80 per download, which may not be sustainable for a small studio. You know, like that can eat into your margin really, really, really fast. As far as suing,
Steam takes 30%.
Steam takes 30%?
I think so.
I thought that under a certain threshold, I thought they were only taking 20.
Steam gets a 30% cut on the first 1 million copies sold.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. So 30%, even more. Jeez.
And I'd have to look this up. I think that's where Epic came in and said they were taking like a lower cut.
That's right. I remember when that happened. So the thing about suing people is in business, a lot of times we see lawsuits, right? And you got to understand, sometimes lawsuits are filed in corporate land just as a means of mediation. They're like, look, we're not seeing eye to eye. We got to get an outside thing. And that's what it's there for, right?
Yeah.
It's there to ensure that everybody's playing by the same rules, that everybody's following the law, and that everybody's following the same structure. So a lawsuit is not always like, oh my God, they're suing them, right? It really is just a matter of how conflicts are mediated.
It's a very like corporate. It's a corporate tool that like we saw in the Microsoft acquisition merger, like Sony stepping in and literally doing what they did. Like these are all tools.
Yeah.
To
the FTC sues to stop these things. They filed a lawsuit to stop a merger. That's just that. So sometimes when we see like such and such sues such and such, I'm always careful with the headlines because sometimes it's not what it looks like on the outside.
I would say in this instance too, especially with the Epic v. Apple sort of case, that I found that yes, well at the end of the day, the consumers got hit the hardest. I do think it was good for them to really. It's kind of nice when those cases get to the point where publicly they have to admit some shit that they really didn't want to. And I think at the end of the day, that's where the consumer wins. Because we all got screwed on the Apple v. Epic case. But at the end of the day, it leads to other stuff. Much like, so for instance, the SAG-AFTRA stuff that was happening, it continues to happen. It's kind of a similar situation where it's just like, it's a money thing, right? They're all playing Moneyball right now, 100%. And so, and yeah, absolutely, I do not disagree. Apple was absolutely gouging developers. Not only that, but they had a very garden-walled system where like you couldn't do it unless you were Apple. But oh, heaven forbid, if you found a way, they're gonna fucking take you out, which we have seen a couple times.
Yep. There you go. The other thing I think that I want to end this on is a lot of this may also, again, come down to, you brought this up briefly, communications.
Yes.
Right?
Comms, for sure.
Corporations, you have to, and you cannot fire, and a lot of times they will, like, lay these people off. Like, I don't know why, like, the value of a front-end comms team
Oh my gosh.
is immeasurable.
They're like reading through, like, and I cannot stress enough how freaking long this Unity thing was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs on Twitter. 6 freaking paragraphs is their tweet about this thing. I don't know if I don't
You
really
can
care
see
if
it.
you
Yeah,
can see it.
yeah, you can.
But like, it's 6 paragraphs of a tweet talking about how we're doing this for you, and we wanted to provide answers, and yes, this price increase will only affect a small subset, and like, but like, to have this have to be a follow-up is insane to me. Your follow-up should be, here's what we're doing with this money, this is good for you, if the conversation would have started off on the right foot.
Yep.
And there's so much value, and like we've seen this a lot too. It's literally a page in every corporation's logbook that they take out as soon as the shit hits the fan, where it's like, don't make me tap the sign sort of stuff, where it's like, we hear you, we're listening, we're doing the thing, we're trying to change. No, you should have come out of the gate with that. Like, how this was going to be beneficial for us, not, hey, we're taking some money from you.
Yeah. Oh no. Abso-freaking-lutely. All right. Well, with that topic down, what did you miss? Us discussing this whole Unity mess, which again, a lot of it we think comes down to communications.
There's plenty of other people's sentiment about it on Twitter right now. You're not going to miss it if you go on any of the social platforms.
So yeah, you can go look that stuff up. But again, if you miss anything from the show, you can go back later today and watch us on YouTube. It'll be under the live tab because I make it live later in the afternoon. All right. And also, if you have any chat questions or anything you saw in there that you want us to talk about today, go ahead and throw it in there. I know that I haven't had a chance to deep dive it, but I know that they had the big Apple presentation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was
yesterday.
Is that the 12th? Yeah, I missed that. The only thing I care about is when the prices come out. I don't know if we even got prices.
$14.99
for a Pro or a Pro Ultra.
Pro Max.
Pro Max. Okay, so the Pro's probably gonna be $1,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, then I'm spending $1,000 on a phone because I need a new one.
I do. I go every other year. I just got this 14 earlier this year.
I'm on the 2020 SE.
Yeah.
I need a new phone.
You still have a button.
I still have a button, and like I mentioned that to somebody the other day, and they were like, "Wait, what? How old is your phone?" I'm like, "Well, it's not that old." And then I was like, "No, it's 3. It's 3 going on. Yeah, okay, it's getting old in phone terms, especially when I'm like, this was the essentially refresh of the 2016 SE. So like, yeah, it's time for a new phone."
So yeah, they did that yesterday, and apparently they're adding some like double tap feature to the Apple Watch. I mean, it's very. I don't think that the Apple presentations have the same like pop that they had when Jobs was doing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's become interesting.
Jobs was just really, that was really what he was good at.
They were very focused. A lot of this, I think, is just like, I think what a lot of it is we're hearing a lot of the same stuff, right? Same form factor, same size, new cameras, maybe, new stuff, maybe, some new internals, maybe, but like, ultimately,
I was listening to one of my favorite things, and the problem that I've got is I have been in the Apple ecosystem since before the iPhone. Right? Like, going back to the iTunes days.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, when they started selling songs for 99 cents, I was like, oh, 99 cents. That's great. Right? Because I don't want the whole album. I want these 3 songs.
Right. I don't want to go pay $16, $20 for a CD or whatever it was at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And then TV shows for $1.99. That's a great deal. So I got stuck in their ecosystem so long ago that and one of my favorite podcasts was talking about the same thing. He's like, look, he goes, you can talk about the Android OS, and the Android OS is objectively a better operating system than iOS is. It just objectively is. I don't personally love the way some of the interface works, but It's better for
Fine,
developers. It's better for the back end. Google, it's great. But I'm stuck. I can't leave now.
I'm kind of.
I bought too much stuff. If there was a way for me to port my iTunes library into an Android phone, I'd think about it, but there's not.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I came in a little bit later. I was on Galaxy phones for many years. Picked up a iPhone recently because it was like the cheap buy-in to like check out the ecosystem. Because like I had been given an Apple Watch, which didn't work with my Android phone. I had been given earbuds, which did work with my Android phone. And eventually I was like, oh, I'll try it. But I mean, like I'm even wearing a fossil Samsung watch right now. I'm wearing an Android watch. I switch back and forth between that and analog and an iPad. Apple Watch, just kind of based on the day, but like, there is something to be said about how, at least in the small ecosystem that I play in, as far as iPhone goes, everything just kind of works. And like with Android, I was running into times where like things wouldn't work the way that I expected. I'm sure with the newer Galaxy models and with the newer Android stuff, everything's just like streamlined. But you know, iPad at home, stuff for editing, various little things like that, where it's like, I'm not like an Apple fanatic and I'm not buying the newest thing every year, but like, I understand why people kind of like stay in and adopt the ecosystem and then you don't end up leaving. Everything just kind of works.
So, and you kind of summed up really well. Again, and I've had this conversation with many of the Android users, which is this. Like when I buy a PC, right, I've got to do a lot of research. What kind of graphics cards in there? What kind of chips in there, right? What are they using for this? With Android, I've always felt that I had to do the same thing for a phone, right? Where I'm like, I have to see which chip they're allowed to do.
Are they using their Snapdragon Tensor, yada yada, or is this some off-brand or whatever? Yeah.
I take it out of the box, I turn it on, and it just does.
And it's already connected.
It's just done, right? Like with my phone, I don't like having to do that level of research.
Yeah.
Right. I know that Apple puts a lot of thought process into the hardware that goes into their systems, the lenses that they put in the cameras. Like they put a lot of thought into it. 169 to challenge. John will be here when Smash starts. The biggest issue that I have with Apple, they often lag behind Android phones. In a lot of ways, they do. But the funny thing is, it's not even a price difference because like the Android phones that are like better than Apple phones are really expensive. They're not cheap. People are like, Android's cheaper. I'm like, yeah, if you buy the cheap Androids.
And that's why I wanted, that's why I started with the cheap iPhone, because I was like, you know what, I'll try it, right? And I'll see if it is the ecosystem that I keep hearing about. Everything just kind of works. But I am also not stuck on either one. I use the store phone every now and then. That's a Galaxy, I think, and like it's great. It's fine. It works. It works great. The one thing that I knew about Android, the reason that like we were seeing for a long time games releasing, like new games releasing on iPhone but not on Android, is just because like it was easier for developers to make it just work across all iPhones because they're the same, whereas Android is just like the wild west of operating systems and different SKUs and all of this other stuff. But I wouldn't, like, if somebody was like, hey, here's a new Galaxy, you want to run with this one and not use your iPhone for a year or whatever, fine, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's mostly for business anyways.
I don't think they purposely slow down our models. I think that they just don't care if, as they're updating iOSs,
if it runs past a certain generation.
I just think they're like, screw it, right?
Because they did recently, something happened, and I'd have to look up all of this stuff, but like they recently did have to make it to where the life cycles of their phone lasted longer. Like for like it was like, I don't know if it was like a lawsuit or some court ruling or something else, but I genuinely remember hearing about this recently, that like they were forced to make their life cycle longer than it was.
All right, moving on though. So again, if you don't have anything in the chats, we got one for Nintendo Directs and things like that. But our second topic today, we have the Lorcana drops. Chapter 2 has been revealed.
Yeah!
It is Rise of the Floodborn. Again, the art, the packaging, it looks really good.
It looks real good.
They got an Amethyst Steel deck, an Amber Sapphire deck that are coming out with that. the cover. The other one's got Mulan and Beast and the Queen of Hearts on the Illumineer's Trove. It looks really solid.
They've got some new accessories coming out. I don't know if we got to the playmats or the other stuff. There's a really cool Winnie the Pooh playmat, and there is a really cool Beast playmat. The other thing, and this is just a cheeky question that I was curious about, is Lorcana releasing out of the States? And we'll just start with that question. Do you know?
Are they releasing internationally?
Yes.
As far as I know, they are, yeah.
Okay. I think you know my next question. And what do you think's just like, I won't go on to this very long. Do you think that Pooh card will make it into China? Because a major feature of this specific Floodborne set is that new Pooh card. And it looks great.
It does. And if you don't understand that, go ahead and Google Chinese Premier and Winnie the Pooh, and you'll understand why.
Yeah, we're not diving into that.
I
just had to make that crack about this.
Funny. I don't know if they're releasing this in China. I know they're releasing internationally. I don't know if they're releasing in China. To answer somebody's question in the chat, no, we can't do pre-orders. Until I find out otherwise. So my understanding is that our allocation for Chapter 2 is going to be roughly the same.
Interesting. Okay.
As Chapter 1. Okay. I am not expecting a significant increase in the level of stock we get of Chapter 2 out the gate than we did Chapter 1. Mm-hmm. That's my understanding as of right now. Again, the set comes out November 17th for hobby shops and December 1st for big box retailers. Restocks on set 1 are supposed to come. I'm being told they got pushed back again, which kind of sucks.
So we're
into October.
Yeah, that makes me wonder. So set 1, I guess Canada Dry is just asking the question, like, do we predict a actual restock before set 2 comes out?
Yes, October.
Okay, so and then do we know a date on set 2? Did we see that?
November 17th.
Okay, so, oh, wow.
November 17th is the release date for Chapter 2, Rise of the Floodborne. It's coming really, I mean, they're doing quarterly releases.
Cool. Okay.
You know. So, what the heck?
Yeah, the Floodborne accessories look fantastic. The starter decks, the Amber Sapphire and Amethyst Steel look really cool. We got like Merlin and
the Winnie the Pooh card, Honey Wizard. I love that.
It looks so good.
It's a 5/5, and he's the Honey Wizard, and it looks really good. 0 to hero. I mean, I got it. Oh, that's Ryan the Last Dragon. Okay. Bell Hidden Archer. Dinner Bell.
They're also like something that's cool is they're adding a new keyword already. And the new keyword is resist. It indicates how much additional damage characters may be able to withstand. For example, resist +2 on a character would mean any damage dealt to them is reduced by 2. So they're already introducing a new mechanic into this new set.
Yeah, and that's good. And again, we knew from the beginning that there was going to be stuff to bolt on here.
Speaking of bolting on, additionally, there's one more surprise joining these products, as they say in their quote here. In celebration of Disney's 100th anniversary, they are releasing a special collection set. Basically, they are releasing a secret lair already for their new game. And it's going to have Elsa, Mickey Mouse, Genie, Maui, Maleficent, and Stitch in art that was actually done by animators that has never been seen before from the Disney vaults.
And that's going to be really, really cool. Yeah. And those things are going to be really, really valuable collectible cards.
Yes.
People come after those.
Yeah, that's coming out in December, I think is what it said here.
Yeah.
And I would expect those to go fast. They're holofoil. They have an animator signature displayed on the art, like on the card. So like, they also contain 4 booster packs of Floodborne. So like they're going to be really good value. They're not going to stay on the shelves very long.
Nope.
And they're going to be released separate from the actual Rise of the Floodborn set. So you'll have a little bit of breathing room before you need to go out and buy the collector's box.
It looks really, really good.
So the Doctor, I see somebody talking about the Doctor Who Magic set. I think that's all we have for Lorcana for today. They've got the announcement on the Disney Lorcana website.
You can go to Dicebreaker. Dicebreaker's got a really good breakdown of some of the cards too.
There you go.
Doctor Who Magic, yes, that's coming out next month. October is the Doctor Who thing. It will be Commander decks and collector boosters. That's all they're releasing for that set.
So no set boosters, no jump starts,
Nothing.
Anything else like that?
It's a limited set again. So I have an allocation on that. The Doctor Who one's been interesting because it is very... some sets are like kind of lukewarm reception where we kind of like, oh, that's kind of neat. Doctor Who has done... Doctor Who the Magic set is very much like, I love this, or this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I won't weigh too much in on the subject, but every episode of Doctor Who that I got shown didn't get me super enthralled in the show. But I can see how people would be passionate about this set because it does have a long winding history. Now I'm curious how far they're going to go back with this history in that set.
It's in the beginning.
Hey, I'm just saying nobody's shown me an episode that got me into it. That's all. I'm trying very hard to say that I don't like. I'm trying not to say that I don't like the show.
It doesn't. Not entertainment's subjective. It doesn't have to be for everybody.
I just didn't get hit with episodes that like I was like, oh wow, I love the old stuff. What was it? The first guy. What's his name?
Christopher Eccleston.
I love that. I've seen several episodes of that. Loved it. Beyond that, I didn't get too far into it.
As far as this, the Universes Beyond stuff, and this is the third or fourth Universes Beyond set, right? We had Warhammer 40K. We had Lord of the Rings. We're getting...
Was Warhammer the first foray?
I want to say it was the first Universes Beyond set.
Because Warhammer was... And it made... Warhammer was just commander decks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And collector ones. The first Universes Beyond...
Anti-John.
So they used to
just keep sending that anti-John money in. I love it.
They used to do them just for secret layers.
So they've done some secret layers with some.
They've done some secret layer stuff with it. I think that the real first release was Warhammer.
Okay.
Lord of the Rings. Oh, technically, the Dungeons and Dragons stuff is considered.
No, I don't. No, that's bullshit. I mean, like they can consider that if they want, but I believe that is bullshit because they own both of them.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's kind of BS. Universes Beyond has been very. Thank you all for the bits, by the way. Has been very controversial in the Magic community. Again, some people think they're great. Some people think that they are.
I got a friend that hates it.
Some people absolutely despise it.
He thought the Warhammer one was kind of neat, but like he just doesn't like the way that like now the pocket universes could just be anything. Like Magic is like, oh, like the Doctor Who one is a good example.
Street Fighter.
I'm not talking shit about Doctor Who. Street Fighter had one, yeah, where it's just like, what, like. I guess I get it from a business perspective where it's really good to do the cross-pollination. As we've talked about in the past, fighting games and CCGs, lots of crossover there.
Yep.
But like from a purist Magic player perspective, they look at that and they're like, this could have been anything, and now they have creative license to just pull in whatever now.
Yeah. Whatever they can license. I mean, they're doing Assassin's Creed.
Jeez. We got 1,000 bits in the chat.
Oh, thank you very much. Agree with Classics team.
That was just all the great things about Doctor Who to atone for his sins. I mean, that's not going to be a very long list. It's okay. I'll be all right.
Okay, so apparently the next Nintendo Direct is tomorrow. So with the Nintendo Direct being tomorrow, I am sure that we will talk about it on tomorrow's show, especially since it's at 7 a.m. Pacific. Nintendo, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, that's what they tend to do. They tend to do their stuff really early, at least for stateside.
All right, so with that said, the chat asked us earlier today, Nintendo Direct predictions. Give me your top 3, what you think we're going to see at the Nintendo Direct tomorrow.
Wonder. We're probably going to see some stuff about Wonder.
Yep.
We'll probably see... Gosh, this is really tough knowing that they're like kind of secretly moving this project. They'll probably talk about the consoles and the bundles that are coming out at the end of the year in December. It's tough to say because we got the Pokemon expansion today, so they're not going to announce a new Pokemon. Mm-hmm. That would be wild to me. Are there any projects that like we're waiting for? I guess is there anything Nintendo based besides Wonder that we know is coming out?
That's what I can't figure out. I can't figure out what they're announcing. I think it's too early for the new console announcement.
Yeah.
If we're looking at second half of 2024, which is what they're telling the investors, mm-hmm. right? It's way too soon.
And I think that it would be if they do what they did like they did last year. They said they literally said no DLC for the new Zelda. Like yes. they said that in a like I think that was the game director literally saying there are no plans. There's nothing more they can do with the space. This was essentially the DLC for the game that came before it, Breath of the Wild. Because like they have maximized the potential that they can do with this game, so they don't want to put out DLC. But it's tough because I think that with how they did the last Nintendo release for a console, it was they announced it and they were like, in 3 months this shit's gonna be out, so get your pre-orders in.
Yep.
And like I think that they would do something similar because I feel like they saw a lot of success with that, where it's just like 3 to 4 months out. Here's the console. Get your pre-orders in now. And
if you want more on consoles, go check out the YouTube video we did on our predictions about the new console, right? We did a YouTube video about this last week. We talked about this in depth about what we thought was going to happen with the new console, and to kind of button hook this with what somebody in the thing is, why are they doing new bundles if new consoles are coming? John and I think both agree that the most likely scenario for the new console is that it is fully backwards compatible.
Yeah, they've already talked about the work that they're doing to bring over your old Nintendo account. And so that signals to me that they're going to try to keep not only the accounts compatible, but possibly even the games and stuff. Like you might be looking at a scenario where you're going to be able to take over your library of games.
And even take your little chip, like the form factor they need to put that little...
Or even like the digital, like a digital download if you have them digitally through the store. Just because like I'm sure the Mario Kart bundle and the Animal Crossing bundle, which is the two that they're coming out with at the end of the year, are going to have some sort of downloadable code. They're not going to come with a physical disc or chip or anything. But to me, that just signals, okay, well then I've got these two staple Nintendo games, right? I've got Mario Kart and I've got Animal Crossing, and then I've got whatever new title comes out on the new Switch when it happens, but then I've got some backlog that I can play and possibly give my old Switch to the kids, the family members, somebody that needs it, mm-hmm. or just keep it around for taking with me when I, am just playing in the bedroom or whatever, and then have the new Switch, whatever that looks like, but have all of this stuff ready to go when I've beaten whatever the flagship title is or whatever that looks like.
So, the press release says tomorrow's Nintendo Direct will focus primarily on 40 minutes of information, mostly focused on Nintendo Switch games. So with that said, I think we're going to get a deeper dive in Wonder and what Wonder is going to look like. I think we're going to get, because the only thing we got so far was
we had a whole thing about Wonder. So
maybe not. Maybe. The Super Mario RPG remake.
Yeah,
I think we're going to get some detail on that.
It's on the back burner for sure.
Because that's coming, and I know a lot of people are really excited about the return of Super Mario RPG. I can't... They're saying 40 minutes of information mostly focused on games. I'm like, what games?
And 40 minutes, that's a long chunk of time, right? And they didn't say like new titles or things on the horizon. This is not an indie one. This is like a full direct. So, like, are we going to get, like, 15 minutes of Wonder when we just had a 9-minute direct about Wonder? Like, that was, like, basically explaining everything that was at Wonder? Yeah. Or are we going to start getting some of those things? Like, are we going to see that Metroid game that are we going to see Metroid 4? You know, are we going to see, are they just going to be hyping up titles that we already know about? Like, this is a tough direct to kind of like pin down. And it's so close to another direct that we already had.
Maybe some more ports. Again, go back and watch our video that we talked about last week. Based on what we're hearing about the new console, based on some other information, I think that maybe they're going to have some conversations with Square Enix, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe a Chrono Trigger remake, maybe something cool like that on the Switch, which I think you could do in a really good way. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you. This one's tough. What Nintendo staples haven't gotten a Switch release? Nothing. I can't think of any Nintendo major IPs that have not gotten a Switch release.
So the only thing, I'm just kind of like flipping through and looking at like what's coming out. We've got Mortal Kombat coming out soon. I seriously doubt that they're going to talk about that. They've got a Super Bomberman coming out in 2023. They've got, let me just see kind of what else we've got here.
Star Fox. I mean, somebody said Firefox. I'm presuming you're meaning Star Fox in the chat.
Detective Pikachu Returns comes out on October 6th. So
Could
that's
that.
a potential. The Batman Arkham trilogy is coming to the Switch in October. There's a new Sonic game. Oh, so there's a new 2D Sonic game, Sonic Superstars. Maybe we're going to see that. There's a lot of stuff coming out in October. Wonder Metal Gear Solid Master Collection is coming out soon in October. There's a lot of stuff coming out in October. So maybe we're going to see some of those titles. Persona 5 Tactica is another one. Apparently in November 17th, Super Mario RPG is supposed to be happening. So
but none of this, again, like you said before, none of this to me says, let's do another Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, maybe all of it together with 5-minute rolls of each thing. We could pull a Direct together.
For 40 minutes on just games? Yeah.
Because, that's going to be a lot of, I'm guessing maybe Sonic, probably a lot of, if they do Detective Pikachu, that's going to take up, a 10-minute chunk.
Again, Super Mario RPG, I could see taking up a significant amount of time. I don't know. We'll let you know tomorrow. Well, I'm sure we will talk about the Nintendo Direct on tomorrow's show. So come back and see us tomorrow, and we will have our thoughts on whether this Nintendo Direct was worth watching. Have we tried Starfield? What do you think? I have started it. I'm about 3 hours in. I haven't had a whole lot of time to deep dive it. Have you? I know you were playing it some last week.
Yeah, I got about 2.5, 3 hours in. I got to no big spoilers for anybody that has played it. I've gotten to the first. I got to the lodge. Yeah. For anybody that knows what the lodge is, you'll understand where I'm at in the game. I got to the lodge. I talked to the rich dude. I talked to a few other people, but I haven't left the lodge to go do the thing that they want me to go do yet. I just haven't had time. But I enjoyed my introduction to this Bethesda experience more than I have the last several games that they've come out with. Didn't really get into Skyrim. My partner loves Skyrim. Didn't really get into Fallout 4. Didn't really get hooked by getting into those worlds. This one has actually got me interested in wanting to continue to play past the introduction part. I'm
a little further down the line than you. I've gone and enlisted in the thingamajigger, and I've wandered around a bit. And I chose parents as a trait.
Oh, interesting. Have you met your parents yet?
Yes, and so that's one of the things that I did was I went and talked to my parents.
Oh, that's kind of neat. I heavily considered that one.
I am trying to figure out if it's got cloud saves between Xbox within the Xbox Game Pass.
It does, because when I boot it up, when I play it streaming to the phone, it just loads my save.
Okay, so because I've been meaning to. I want to load it onto the Xbox at my house as well as my PC because I want to try it on both.
Oh, there you go.
Platforms, kind of see how it works, and sometimes it's just easier that way.
I'm on PC and I'm playing on controller, just cause mostly.
So somebody in the chat's talking about tutorials. So very often, in fact, most often, Bethesda does not do tutorials. They almost never do. What they do is they do a running tutorial where they bring you different functions of the game at stages, right? So
Like when you get your watch and like all that other stuff.
here's your Pip-Boy.
Yeah,
Right?
essentially. Yeah.
Like, and in this one, it's like, here's your laser. Here's how you aim things. Here's how you mine shit, right? And they're giving you the tutorial of how to mine minerals, right? And then, oh, here's a ship. This is how you fly, you know? Yeah, they don't do, Bethesda almost never does traditional tutorials. That's very normal for them. How to put on a helmet. Oh, yeah, and again, it's...
Oh, and so I would say on controller, and I don't know if anybody else is having this sort of difficulty. The button mapping on the controller to like navigate menus and stuff is not great. Getting into your inventory is kind of obnoxious on controller, and accessing your mission spot is the weirdest thing because it is just a blank space that you're meant to push your D-pad down to underneath your character. It doesn't even say missions down there on that part of the screen. It was just like, so there's some of it where I think a little bit of it is just like some futuristic UI choices, but then there's just some of it where like I genuinely didn't know where the hell to find my missions until like I was flipping my D-pad around.
Yeah, and they've talked about what the first patches and stuff are going to be. They're going to do some quality of life stuff. The thing that I think annoys me the most, and this is just me, okay? I don't like not having a mini-map in the city.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I even thought about that.
It's that trying to navigate, like I was in the first city and I left the lodge and I'm like, I've got all this crap that I looted. I need to sell my crap. Where do I go to sell crap?
Yeah, because I remember going to a store at one point, but I don't remember where the hell it was on my way to the lodge.
So it was like, where the hell am I going? Yeah, they're saying a lot of quality of life updates. Bethesda, if you're listening, quality of life, I would really love a map.
I'd love a map,
like a real
map, some sort of object. So like, if I want to find the store, because I know some games have like, you know, traditionally like in their games they would have like I talk to a person and they tell me where the store is and then it's marked on my map or whatever. The map doesn't exist, so that makes it really hard. But like, give me something like some games have that. You know, like Dead Space, for example. Hit a button, it points you to the thing that you wanted to go to with a little map on the line on the floor where it's like, we're in the future, y'all. There's got to be some way for me to find these things that are not just like memorize a whole fucking city.
Yeah, and I'm like, come on, guys. Google Maps is a thing. Like, this
didn't disappear in the next 200-300 years or whatever it's supposed to be. Like,
right.
That's going to be around.
Somebody in the chat saying it will be a mod. Probably. I'm sure there'll be a mod. They're doing a FOV slider and eat button for food.
Oh, good. Those are both very important.
Until then, we know the PC community is very active in the modding space. So yeah, that's going to happen.
I will. Necron. Looking forward to it.
DLSS support, that doesn't surprise me. 32:9 ultra-wide monitor support, that would be interesting.
DLSS
if you had
support,
the ultra-wide freaking curve, that would be a cool way to play Starfield.
The deep learning super sampling is something that I think is going to be really important for this game, especially because there are just some like there's some weird like texture and graphical moments where I'm just like a little bit of love here. Nothing bad. Like, and that's the thing that I think they have hit the mark. If they're going for hard sci-fi, I think they have hit that really well, and I am enjoying the world, I am enjoying the gameplay, I am enjoying the moment to moment. There are just little tiny quality of life things that I would love to see that like don't really break my immersion, but will be fantastic when they actually happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Malice, have a fantastic day. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's somebody in the chat talking about some of this stuff. I think that this may be for people kind of in that system, and this has been where I've seen a lot of frustration with Starfield. A few different things. One, if you've played No Man's Sky, I think a lot of people were expecting that level of seamlessness that No Man's Sky has.
Yep.
And if you haven't played No Man's Sky, I'll explain. When you're in your ship in No Man's Sky, and you're like, look, there's a planet, you can just fly
to the
down,
planet.
and
Yep.
you will, and there is no loading screen, there is nothing. You can literally, if you choose to do it this way, they've got like skip functions where you can like just land here, do.
Yeah, but more often than not, you're going to hyperspace to a planet, you're going to look at the planet, you're going to scan it, and then you're going to manually land your ship wherever the hell you want.
Right, and that's No Man's Sky, right? And then No Man's Sky, you can get up out of your chair and then walk down on the planet and leave, right? Like, I think a lot of people were expecting that type of space exploration experience with Starfield.
That's fair.
But that's not what Bethesda do. Right? Like, that's never been their style. Right? Buildings in Fallout are separate level design systems. Right? When you enter a structure, you are inside the structure. Right? Not in the overworld. Is No Man's Sky on Game Pass? I believe it is. No Man's Sky is frustrating for a lot of people too, because it's also very slow. Right? If you...
Yeah, it's on Game Pass.
How do I put this? I think that if... Again, I don't think every... Actually, we can use this to touch on kind of a broader topic. John was talking about Doctor Who. Right? Not John's cup of tea. Right? That's okay. Entertainment is subjective. You don't have to like everything else that everybody else likes.
Because like I don't particularly like No Man's Sky. I've played a lot of it, but like it hasn't grabbed me the way that Starfield has.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with I don't like resource mining. I just don't like resource gathering.
No Man's Sky's got a really deep, intricate story that you've really got to put some effort into.
Oh
like,
yeah, you got to get
getting
in there.
the translations and figuring out how to translate the alien languages and how to do all this stuff. Like it's very in depth.
It's more of an immersive simulator in a lot of ways.
It is, and like when No Man's Sky first came out, people were like, "This," I'm like, "No, it's not a video game in the traditional sense of the word. It's much more meditative." You know, Starfield, Doctor Who, whatever it is. Again, I've talked to some people in the store about this, and I've talked to a lot of said this on the stream many times. Especially when I became a creator, when I became a writer and a publisher, one of the things I figured out and that I stopped doing was I stopped using the word sucks. I took it out of my vocabulary, right? When it comes to describing entertainment, right? Be it books, movies, video games, whatever. And the reason I did was because no matter what it is, from Bluey the cartoon to Starfield, to Doctor Who, there is a group, one or more individuals who put a lot of effort and time and creative energy into creating these pieces of entertainment.
Yep.
Right? Just because I am not the target audience for that entertainment, or because I don't personally enjoy it, does not make it bad.
That's a very similar philosophy to my many years in eSports, and I would have people come in and talk to me about, you know, it's like, oh, how much they dislike sports or traditional sport media or blah, 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 yada, yada. And I was just like, I try to embrace it all because, one, we can all learn from each other, and two, like, you know, there's no reason to talk crap about, you know, something in that sort of sphere where it's just like, we're all trying to do a professional thing, you know, here. And in that sort of regard, I started to kind of like enjoy sports for their own thing in the way that they were. And when somebody would talk to me about that, I would just be like, you know, there's a lot of back and forth here. You know, the NFL teams have come to things like Fortnite and recognize that they need to get a leg up in that area, or like various things where it's just like, to me, I'm not a big sports ball fan. I like hockey and I like WWE, and those are the two things that I follow. Football, basketball, baseball, played them all when I was a kid. Don't follow it anymore, but I completely respect the passion and the drive and stuff that people have for that sort of stuff, especially having worked in esports for as many years as I have.
And I think a lot of this comes from when I was growing up. If you were into stuff like tabletop RPGs or video games or things like that, like, it was deeply looked down upon by large portions of your peer group. You know, and again, subjectively bad. Like, some people talk about things being subjectively bad. Again, this is why I take the word sucks out of my vocabulary. define bad. That's the problem. Like, where do you draw the line where you're like, bad, right? I tend to leave the term bad for things that I consider like exploitative.
I could see that, yeah.
Right? Or ethically questionable, right? That's the, no, you're not the only one left in there. Some people are just hanging out. Dude. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's people just hanging out. Hey, everybody hanging out. We love you. I tend to save, again, subjectively bad for stuff that, again, is exploitative, ethically questionable, morally questionable. That's really where I leave those for. Because, again, just because I'm not the target audience doesn't mean it's bad, right? You know, there are people who like trashy smut novels, right?
Some of them are written really well, too. I mean, like, some of them get really far.
Yeah, like, just because it's not my cup of tea doesn't make it bad.
I mean, like, and even weird stuff.
That's where I get into it's difficult.
I mean, like, for those out there that have heard of Chuck Tingle, I mean, his stuff is incredibly well written, but most people would think it's just bad literature. But it is he is an incredibly good writer. So, like, you know, it just depends. No, I think, yeah, this is a tough one. It's, you know, it goes back and forth with literally, you could go through every entertainment property and franchise and kind of go back and forth on it, honestly. But I think that's one of the beautiful things about art and creative stuff in general, where it's just like, everybody is allowed to have their own opinion and viewpoint on it. And that's kind of a fantastic thing.
Yeah. The one I'll use recently is, a lot of people talked about Baldur's Gate 3. I have not played Baldur's Gate 3. I have read a lot on Baldur's Gate 3.
I haven't played it either. We're probably the last two people in the world.
And here's the thing. I'm not harshing on anybody who's played. I've talked to a bunch of my acquaintances and friends who've played Baldur's Gate 3 and absolutely adore it. And they're like, you need to play it. I'm like, I'll be honest. It's not that I think the game is bad. But based on everything that I'm reading and everything that I see, it's just kind of like it holds no.
Well, you're like a sci-fi guy, right? So like you'd much rather go play like a cyberpunk or another like Starfield, like sci-fi centric RPG, whereas like the fantasy of or the magic systems and that stuff just doesn't quite, you know, get you the same way, which is completely understandable.
Yeah, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 is probably one that I'm going to play when it comes to Game Pass, you know, and is free for me and I don't have to pay for it. You know, that's kind of my shtick.
I just don't have enough time. I don't have enough time for that big of a game. Like, I can't believe I'm even playing Starfield knowing how big it is. I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'm frustrated with myself because I know I'm only going to get so far into Starfield, and it's going to turn into Mass Effect for me, right? And this is what I'm afraid of. So I have a special relationship with Mass Effect.
Okay.
When Mass Effect first came out, I didn't have a chance to play it, and everyone's like, you need to play this game. It's so great.
Okay.
Every time I would be like, all right, I'm going to start Mass Effect. I'm going to play Mass Effect. Every single fucking time I would start the game, I'd get like 2 hours in, and then something would happen in my life.
You never come back to it.
And I couldn't get back to it. And then by the time I did come back to it, I was like, I have no clue what is happening right now.
You know, for all the shit that people are giving the new Final Fantasy game, the being able to just hit a button and figure out your story beats is literally the coolest invention in a game that I've ever seen, especially for somebody like us, where it's like, I might not be able to play Starfield consistently. I might not be able to play this other game consistently. Hell, I might want to play some other games in between while I'm playing this big, long narrative game. In Final Fantasy, they literally had a button that was like your lore button that would tell you who these people are, where you're at in the story, why it matters, literally just in a button press.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the most amazing system for someone like me.
And the thing with Starfield is I'm afraid Starfield is going to turn into Mass Effect. As much as I've been looking forward to this game, it's one of the few games I've been anticipating for a while now. The problem that I now have with Starfield, and John has said this many times on the show since he's joined us, we gamers are eating good right now.
Yeah.
Like, the Cyberpunk expansion, the 2077 expansion comes out at the end of the month, right? Assassin's Creed Mirage comes out, I think at the end of the month,
Mm-hmm.
and both of which I am very much looking forward to, especially the Assassin's Creed expansion. And the initial reviews are coming in for that Assassin's Creed, the new Assassin's Creed Mirage, and apparently it's really like a return to form for Ubisoft. I'm worried that Starfield's going to turn into Mass Effect 3, and then I'm going to get like 4 hours in, I'm going to go, oh crap, I'm going to play the Cyberpunk thing, and then by the time I get back to Starfield, I'm like, what was happening again?
What was I even doing?
What was I even doing here? I have to come to terms with the fact that I don't need to play everything right when it comes out, and that's the only way I think I'm going to play Starfield. I'm going to have to like force myself to finish it at least and get into New Game Plus land, where it doesn't matter as much because I'm just wandering around at that point.
That's a big part of it, where it's just like like the only ones that I need to be playing right when they come out for me personally are fighting games. The rest of them, like they're going to be there. They're probably going to have a price drop, and then I'll probably be able to step in at that point.
Speaking of which, I think we're going to try and set up our thing for Mortal Kombat Early Access today.
Yes.
Because Early Access for MK1 is tomorrow.
Yep.
So I'm going to try and get that set up this afternoon where we can have the Early Access bundle for our lovely PlayStation. We'll have some people come down and do some stuff with that. All right. Well, if there's nothing else from the chat, thank you all for sticking around. We really appreciate you. Thank you all for the bits today. That was awesome. Don't forget you can use your Amazon Prime sub to subscribe and give us Amazon's money.
Yeah.
I'll take Amazon's money.
We'll take them both.
We'll take them both.
Thank you for the person that dropped 1,000 bits earlier.
Yes.
We don't have it on tap, but like thank you so much for the contribution.
I want to say that was Necron, but we'll look. So thank you all. Come in and see us. We'll be open in just a couple hours, 3 o'clock today, and then come back tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be commenting on what actually happened at the Nintendo Direct tomorrow morning. Come on, Nintendo, 7 a.m.
Yup.
What's up? So I'm sure I'll be watching that while I make breakfast for my little one tomorrow morning. We'll be able to 3 o'clock. Come see us. It's draft night. It's Smash Melee night. We got a lot of stuff going on.
Heck yeah.
So we will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Have a great day, y'all.